On today's Success Excuses podcast, we have Alex Robertson. Alex, welcome to Success Excuses podcast.
Thanks for having me, James. I'm looking forward to this.
Perfect. Listen, give us a bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what your business is, just a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, so I was brought up in Falkirk, kind of central Scotland area. Pretty standard start to life, just school. I had no idea what I was going to do in my life. At the time, it was like, become a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant if you want to make some money. And so I went into accountancy. And for me, it was fairly straightforward. I was never the most dedicated student, but I'd done enough to do well enough to kind of get on. Went to university and out the other end, just desperate to get into work, desperate to start making some money.
Give me some money.
Give me some money, exactly. The student life is, it's pretty tight for a while. So, but you go through university and you expect that there's going to be this plethora of job opportunities and big money at the end of it, and it couldn't have been further from the truth. I went for my first job interview and they were offering like 11 grand a year as a chartered accountant trainee.
Oh, dear me.
And even my 300 quid mortgage on my one bed flat, it wasn't going to cover it. It wasn't going to cut it. So I had to keep going. In my second interview, actually, it was with one of the big 4 accounting firms. And again, I was just like, I had no idea what to do. I'd done this accounting finance masters, thought, right, need to put it to use. So go to the big firms, and I had a job interview with Ernst & Young, and I was so out of my depth, it was unbelievable. These guys were asking me about, the latest stuff in the Financial Times and, world politics, and I'm just like trying to make shit up as I'm going, I have no idea.
It's like when you get into business, make shit up as you go along because we have no idea.
Just totally tried to bluff it, and then I left the interview. It was in Edinburgh, and I was walking down the street in Edinburgh, and I seen this beautiful building, and it had a plaque on it that said the Association of Master Bakers. And I started pissing myself laughing. Just like one of those things where I thought, there is no way I'm mature enough to get that job. And I didn't.
Fun enough.
But it did make me kind of, focus myself a bit and say, right, okay, I really need to prep for the next interview. And the next interview was an oil and gas company, right, based in Leith, in Edinburgh, and I managed to get the job, and that just completely changed my life for the next sort of 15 years. Massive eye-opening. A lot of my mates at the time were taking years out after university and saying, right, I'm going to go travel the world and all that sort of stuff, and I got to do that through my job, and I got paid for it. I
know exactly how you feel. I did exactly the same, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
So oil and gas, what happened next? So going good life as well. Oh, good money, great life.
And that's
these are perks that you would normally wouldn't have at a young age.
100%. I didn't come from a particularly wealthy background. I lived in an okay area. It was safe. My parents gave me a great upbringing, but they didn't have a lot of money. So I always wanted that stuff.
I was very working class.
Yeah.
And I had 3 sisters.
I can imagine. So that oil and gas lifestyle does like open your eyes to kind of what's possible. The money's really good. You're getting to travel the world. The company's paying for everything for you. My first assignment was, I went to South Africa for a little bit, but then after that was in Norway for 2 years. They paid for my apartment. They paid for my car. I was getting all this extra cash because I was away.
I did rotation in Norway for nearly a year, believe it or not.
What part?
Yeah. Stavanger.
Oh, Stavanger. I was in Orkanger, which is kind of a little bit further north than that, but it probably wasn't my favourite assignment because, the Norwegians...
It was expensive as well.
So expensive. 10 quid a pint at that time, and that's going back to 2007 or something. So Norwegians are very family orientated as well, so they're quite insular. It's not easy to go out and socialise and make friends in Norway. And it was an onshore gig, so I was there, I had an apartment, I was just building my life, but, I learned so much. The kind of 15 years that I was in oil and gas, I was a finance guy, but job I ended up doing was kind of anytime they were setting up a new site, anytime they were creating a new operation in a new kind of geographical location, they'd get me involved to kind of set up the systems, hire the staff, not just the finance stuff, but like all of the kind of administrative function, whether it's HR, hiring staff, you know, understanding how the taxes work in that country and how we operate our systems there. So it was a great learning ground for, like, you know, the fundamentals of how to get a business off the ground. And you were kind of left to your own devices, you know.
So you were learning on the spot.
Oh, it was amazing for that. And just like getting this level of freedom at a young age, you know, they kind of put me in a finance manager's role from like the age of about 23, 24.
Wow.
So
it's young, isn't it?
It was at the time. And I remember my first week with the job, and they'd asked me to prepare a set of accounts for this branch they had in Russia. I didn't have a fucking clue what I was doing. I'd done 4 years of university. I had no idea what to do with this, and I basically had to go back through the old accounts to try and figure it out, because I didn't want to go to my boss and say I don't know what I'm doing here. So there was an old guy called Ian that'd been with the company for years, and I just go to him every day asking him questions, and he was great. He didn't get pissed off with me. He was just, so it looked like from the start, you know, I was just getting stuff done and you know, being quite self-sufficient.
But you took initiative though.
Yeah.
That was the difference. It's like, so you didn't know. And by the way, that I'm going to quickly tell you a story about. So I moved to Saudi Arabia in 2007.
Yeah.
2007. I moved to Saudi as a country manager for one of our product lines.
Wow.
And my boss, right, was a Venezuelan. I won't mention any names. He was a Venezuelan guy. And I'd get promoted into this role above his mate. So his mate had way more experience, been with the company way longer than me. I was just a wee engineer upstart, right, who'd kind of made a name for myself doing what you do, you know, changing things around and going to business. Mine was the finance, mine was operations. Yeah. And I remember going to him, and they asked me to do the plan for the year, the financial plan, the gap analysis and all that. Yep. And I went to him, I thought, I fucking don't know. I've never built a plan in my life. Yep. Like I'm an engineer, man. I know about plans, you know, growth, revenue, gap analysis. I don't know anything. I don't know. So I went to him and I says, listen, I've never built a plan before. I says, I don't know, you know what I'm. And his answer was tough. You need to learn. Yeah, you need to learn. So, and the reason I mentioned it is that, so I went to our accountant. So we had our own accountant for my product line, and I went to him and says, you need to teach me this shit, because I am never going to go back into another meeting and say I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And I sat with this guy, and he was an Indian, and he sat with me and he taught me everything about a plan. He showed me how it works, he showed me how it's supposed to flow, taught me through gap analysis, taught me through everything. And I presented, and I absolutely, I had left a few things in there right enough that I hadn't practiced. It was around the bridging. So if this is your revenue plan, what if it doesn't go right? What's happening in between? If that doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. And my answer, by the way, and this is me on to the CEO of a $25 billion company, right? Yeah, saying it will happen. I'll make it happen. That was my answer. It will happen, I'll make it happen. But what's your contingency plan? Don't have one. I'll make it happen.
Plan A is the only plan.
That's exactly it. And by the way, I did make my plan that year. But that's going back to that obviously the mindset you need to have is just get it done.
Yeah,
figure it out. That takes you probably through your life if you get that mindset.
I mean, it's very much the mindset of an entrepreneur is just like figure it out. You know, all we do every day as entrepreneurs is just deal with the shittiest problem in your business and figure out how the fuck you're going to fix it and move the business forward. So, you know, it's that willingness to learn and grow and also take stuff on head on. You know, a lot of people would have shied away from it or made excuses, or, you know, it just doesn't move you forward.
So I want to talk about what you said there. So the life of an entrepreneur, my God, it's hard work, innit?
Oh, it's torture.
And it never stops, right? Because your vision gets a bit bigger. So you meet your plan, you meet your targets. You know, I always used to be like, when I make $1 million, when we've turned over $1 million, then you hit it. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, when we hit 2, when we hit, you know, so you
this is
and
it.
the problems never go away.
No.
What I've found, right?
They just get bigger.
They just get bigger. What I've found though is as I've moved through my entrepreneurial journey, I took everything on board. Like everything fell on my shoulders. Now I've kind of put people in place. I know you've got some really good employees as well now, and partners in the business that can take some of that stress, we like to call it. So I probably don't have as much shit as I used to have. It's bigger shit.
It's bigger shit.
It's bigger
and
shit.
That's really all you should be dealing with. And we've got this formula in place now where we kind of look at what are the genuine problems that we need to deal with. Because there's, you know, my business partner Laurie is maniacal about dealing with problems in her business. Wants to deal with it, knock it off, deal with it straight away, no messing about. And that's a really great way to be. It's much better than burying your head in the sand, which is
absolutely.
like where 90% of people are. But there's also somewhere in the middle where you have to say, you know, if I don't deal with this, might it just go away itself so I can focus on the real things?
And sometimes it does.
It does, yeah. It's incredible how often that happens, actually. So, you know, we're always analysing whether or not, one, should we be dealing with this? Is this something we can push down to the staff? Or two, is this something that might go away? And then three, okay, right, this is the shit we really need to deal with. And, you know, ultimately those are the things that are moving your business forward or, you know, stopping it from crumbling.
Do you know there's a statistic on that, right? That 97% of the things that you worry about never happen. And out of the 7%, the 3% that does, 98% of it's never as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So I had this conversation with my wife. My wife's a stressor, right? And she's a co-founder of the company. And to be fair, she probably runs her operation. She probably has the harder job than I've passed all that on.
Yeah.
So she's got the harder, the shittier end of the stick, we'll call it. And she's a worrier.
Yeah.
And I say to her all the time, you need, in a not polite way, you need to let shit go in this.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably going to turn into nothing. And you know, it happens all the time. Just when you think, it was a really good week, you get a phone call on a Friday, or you get an email on a Saturday, and you're just like, here we fucking go again, man.
Yeah.
It just never goes away.
It's one of those things where, you know, there's so many ups and downs. You need to find a way to regulate it. You need to find a way to compartmentalise things. And, you know, for me, it's always about trying to stay as present as I can. Because, you know, if you're too bound by the past or you're thinking too much about what could happen in the future, that's where the stress is going to creep in. So it's just like, what's in front of me today? What do I need to deal with? And try and focus as much on the present as possible. But, you know, all these mindset challenges we're talking about, it really is the fundamental thing that determines whether or not you can be an entrepreneur. Because if you can't deal with this shit, you're not in the right place.
Let's go to the entrepreneur, because we've not actually talked about that next stage. So oil and gas. What happened? Because obviously you started up your own business, so oil and gas. Talk us through that, so that the listeners can really get a picture of
why
the
I
background.
moved, and that's it. Because, you know, the lifestyle. Because you had a comfy job.
Very. Because I had a comfy job. I mean, I was based in Dubai before I gave up and came back to the UK. I was on £250,000 basic salary.
Yeah.
£250,000, and then I had a car allowance, and I had a housing allowance. I had a swimming pool in my garden that I never went in.
Yeah,
like I was living the dream. It wasn't my dream. I was living somebody else's dream.
And it was, you know, the reality was, I was living my 18-year-old dream of, like, you know, my last major assignment, I was in Baku for 5 years. And
apparently that was really good. It's a good place, isn't it?
Beautiful.
I have a few friends that have lived there.
Great.
Never been there myself.
Know, a lot of the Azeris speak English, you know, so unlike Russia where you really need to learn some of the language, the Azeris mostly speak English. You know, it's like they talk about it like a mini Dubai, but really you're talking about the centre of Baku. It's very well developed. They've got a lot of oil wealth. There was a lot of expats there. You know, next to my apartment block was the BP offices. They were huge. They had like 2,000 expats or something like that. So, you know, there was loads going on. Beaches, amazing summers. You know, so it was great. I was living in Port Baku, which was kind of the big fancy tower. My apartment actually looked out over the racetrack where the Baku Formula One was. And It was great. I had a full-time cleaner. I had my own driver. You know, life was good. You know, it's. But you realise at some point,
everybody else has them too. By the way, just in case anybody's thinking, "Oh, fucking driver and cleaner."
Yeah.
Everybody had drivers and cleaners.
Standard for the lifestyle.
I had a live-in maid.
Yeah.
2 years live-in maid.
And this is what I'm struggling with now, because I'm, you know, like COVID was when I kind of left the oil and gas
right,
life.
okay.
I'd finished in Baku. I went to Texas. They'd given me this big promotion to be the finance controller for the Western Hemisphere of the company. So
where was that based?
That was based in Houston.
Right, Houston. I like Houston.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law's living over there, and I lived there for about 8 months. I quite like Houston. Huge city though.
Huge. You know, and actually I didn't spend a lot of time in the city of Houston. It was kind of on the outskirts where our office was, where I was living. But the expectation was that I was going to move to Texas, and I didn't really ever want to do that because it was a whole family move and all that sort of stuff.
I get that.
So we got to a point where, you know, I'd been there for like 6 months, and I was supposed to be apartment hunting. I almost signed a lease on an apartment the week before COVID came in. So, you know, I'd have been paying for that myself because it was like a proper job there. It wasn't like you
wasn't
an
an expat. It was that. Yeah.
So I nearly signed online, and if I'd done that, I'd have been paying like $5,000 a month all the way through COVID. But COVID came in. I remember I was in the hotel. And like I could see there was a lot of stuff going on the TV screens, but the sound wasn't on, and Trump was on, and I sort of knew there was this COVID thing kicking about, but I'd been working it. I wasn't even thinking about it. And I think that was the 14th of March, and I was due to fly out that day. So I got on the plane, I got home, and then the next day everything went into lockdown. So I was just fortunate, because if it had been a couple of days later I was flying back, I'd have been stuck. So I continued to work for them for a couple of years through COVID, but at that point I'd already made up my mind after Baku, I need something else. You know, the oil and gas is, like you say, the life's amazing. You know, you
travel the world, everything. Somebody pays for it,
but you're very much at someone else's behest. Where do they need you next?
That was me. I was Saudi, Bahrain, Kuwait, Malaysia, Africa, Australia, America. I mean, and sometimes I was literally just getting comfortable. And they're like, right, we want you to, and because in Baker Hughes, how they had mapped my career for me. So I had every 5 years, you've got a 5-year plan. You've got a 5-year plan. So I kind of know what roles I was going to be moving in, what countries I would be going, but I had a plan. I had a succession plan in place for my growth within the company. So I knew that I would be moving. I just didn't know where. I can get tiring sometimes because you're just meeting friends and you're just starting to build a life, and then they're like, oh, because they tried to get me to move to Iraq, Erbil one time. Jesus. And I had an apartment in Erbil, but I still lived in Dubai, so I was flying back and forward because I just said no. I am not taking my family to Erbil. And Erbil's fantastic, by the way. Erbil was really, really good. I mean, I had a lot of good times there, and I bought a lot of nice friends, but there was no way
it wasn't.
I was moving a family there. Like, no way.
Yep. And that's it. At some point a line needs to be drawn, and you know, for me it's like similarly Shawcor had this sort of career path, and I knew my next step was VP of Finance, and then, you know, if you're good enough long term you might get to CFO role. But the problem again is like things were starting to get more and more unstable in that company. You know, it wasn't a great time for oil and gas.
It was horrendous.
Exactly.
And they just came through 2015, 16, 17, horrendous.
And you know, I just felt like, I don't know, I got to this point in my early 30s where I thought, you know, what does life look like? What's the legacy here? And I was earning good money, but I was also incredibly, given that I was in finance and I'd done a master's in accounting and finance, I wasn't that financially educated. You know, I'd been the guy in Azerbaijan, but I was flying back every 3 weeks. I still had a house in the UK, bought myself a brand new car.
I was exactly the same.
Sitting in the drive doing absolutely nothing. House is empty most of the year, just wasting money.
Did exactly the same.
So you end up,
because there's always because we get paid so well in oil and gas. Every time you went to the cash machine, there was money there, like all the time, and we're talking thousands and thousands of pounds. So it was almost like money didn't really have a value. At least I felt like that. It was just always there. I mean, I joined oil and gas when I was 29, just about to turn 29, and. My first job in oil and gas, like I was on like basic salary 80 grand. And I'm like, and getting money for, so when I went to a different country, I got money for
overseas incentive and stuff.
Yeah. And I was like, fucking hell, I've just came from being a sparky, making 25 grand.
And now the money's pouring in.
And you just become accustomed to it, driving fancy cars, living in apartments that you don't really need. I mean, I had a 5-bedroom house with a swimming pool. There was 2 years.
Yeah,
I didn't need it.
No.
But I could get it.
Yeah, so take it.
I've done about like £150,000 car. And I promised myself I wasn't going to get into this now in Dubai, right? And I promised myself, because everybody had fancy cars, right? And I promised myself I'm not doing it. Yeah. And I think I was there 4 months and I did it.
It's just the environment.
It is. You become the environment, don't you?
Yeah.
Like that next step. What happened next?
So during the COVID period, I was doing my job but remotely. There'd been a couple of years before that where me and my one of my business partners, Laurie, and I had started talking. We were both kind of leaning towards property, not for any like real reason other than this basic thinking of if I'm going to get in a business, you want to get in a business in something you can make a lot of money in.
And if property, you get it right, you can make a shitload of money.
Yeah. So what's the biggest thing people buy? Property. Therefore, has to be.
It's always going to be needed.
Yeah. So that was the kind of basic thinking, but we both got pretty passionate about it. We went deep. We learned the ins and outs of it. I think the thing that really switched my thinking on the kind of finance education side of it was Rich Dad Poor Dad. A lot of people talk
about
the book. Yeah.
Love it.
It's so and like there is nothing that is incredibly groundbreaking about it, but nobody's ever put it to you like that.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, I was the poor dad, in terms of making really good money but making really bad financial decisions.
Identical story. Yeah. I was in fact, I've wasted millions. I mean, wasted millions. I was the guy that would see when I'd come back to the UK and with my mates, I'd be I mean, I would go through thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
Thousands of pounds. A night out in Dubai, a dinner for two, a night out, 800-900 quid. Easy.
I'll tell you a story about that. So I was in Baku, but it was only a 2-hour flight to Dubai. So me and the guys would sometimes go for a long weekend, and I knew this guy that worked for a Greco, big generator company. He'd moved to Dubai, so he was like, I'll take you out, we'll go for a
lot of Scottish guys that work for a Greco in Dubai.
Yeah.
Aye.
I think it was Scottish based, was it not?
I think they're Scottish based. Aye, there.
Well, this guy, funnily enough, was Macedonian, but I'd met him in Baku. And he was a great guy, but he took me out and we went to, I think it was like China White or something like that. It was like a brunch. But one of these boozy brunches where it's pitch black, there's a DJ on, it's in the middle of the day, and the brunch finished at like 5 o'clock, and then he went and bought us some drinks. He went and got like the round of drinks and stuff like that. So we had them and it was like, okay, my turn, I'll go and get the drinks. And then the next thing in the day when I looked at the receipt, it was fucking 900 quid for that round of drinks. And I thought, at that point I was just like, Dubai terrifies me. It's just so easy to spend money.
Easy. Yeah. As I said, and I hate talking about this because it does sound like you really don't give a shit about money. Owning a business, you learn about money. You really learn about money, don't you? Anyways, I remember that would be nights, we'd go out for a nice meal, maybe one of those steak places or the Argentinian with the dancers, and we'd have a few drinks and 300-400 quid.
Yeah, easy.
That's just your meal.
Yeah.
And that's not the drinks before, that's just a meal. And then you'll maybe go to a bar and you'll have a few drinks, maybe a few vodkas, whatever it is, a couple $100 quid.
Yep.
And then you go to a nightclub, and half that time you're pissed. I'm not a big drinker, right? I'm normally pissed by then, right? And I go to a nightclub and you can only get a table if you buy a bottle. Yeah. The only way you get a table is if you buy a bottle. So I'd buy a bottle, and my wife would say to me, no, you don't need a bottle. You're going to have to give it away the same as you do every fucking time we go out. Yep. I want a bottle on the table. So you got a bottle of vodka on the table with all your mixers, 3 or 4 drinks, an hour later, and I'm what I used to go and do is there's loads of young Scottish air hostesses. So in the bars, so I'd go and find a couple of Scottish girls, and I'd say, yeah, come, there you go, there your seat, there a bottle of vodka, and me and her would leave. I mean, it was just, and by the way, the bottle was 600-700 quid.
Easy, yeah.
I mean, what the fuck?
Just obscene.
But you become accustomed to it, because I almost felt like money was just always there, and then you start business, and then it's a different ballgame, innit?
Totally different.
Talk is about the starting the business then.
So, yeah, Laurie and I were just going back and forward with ideas and stuff like that, and gradually over time, it just made sense for us to start working together. Laurie, I knew him from school, but he's very sales driven, where I'm more of the kind of systems analytical guy. So between the two of us, it was just a really nice combination. It was that kind of complementary skills. And we just started growing a buy-to-let portfolio, and we done it super quick. Within the first 2.5 years, we had over 200 properties.
Whoa!
And we were flying.
I mean, that's massive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of properties in such a short period of time.
It was. We'd figured out the formula how to buy portfolios without a lot of money going in to do it, and we just replicated that multiple times. So I think in the first year we'd built maybe 40 properties, kind of doing individual
That's still
deals.
huge though.
Yeah, just doing a lot of volume of below market value.
Was this using both full time in it?
No, we were part-time.
Right, okay, so
he was still full-time employed. He was working for a company called Allied, or like oil and gas as well. Right. His old man had started the company, and then they sold to an Italian mob, but he had a pretty cushy role. He was sales, but he wasn't doing a lot for it. And then I was working from home because of COVID, and really it was getting away with murder. So between the two of us, we were spending a huge amount of time on this property business.
Because property can be, I mean, it's a tough game as well. A lot of people, because I won't mention any names, but social media with property, right? Everybody's gurus in the property industry, and everybody's making millions, and we know that that's not actually true, right? We know most people are really, really struggling. How were you able to overcome? What was it that was it the absolute focus? What was it that enabled you to build? Because that was quite a rapid growth.
It was. I think the first thing to say is you're absolutely right. There's way too many people on social media that talk about, financial freedom in 90 days, or, properties are breach.
Excuse the language, pash.
The reality is, when you're building a buy-to-let portfolio, all you see is money going out the door. It's just like, even when you're recycling your money through refinancing and buying below market value, you're never seeing big lumps of money in your bank account. Yeah. It's all creating this monthly cash flow that's drops of hundreds of pounds here and there, but it's no huge money. So, you're just investing. And like I say, for us, it was understanding that we were at a turning point, because 2017 Section 24 came in. So the game had changed. Everybody was investing through companies. There was a lot of landlords that had to leave the market because their tax situation was horrific if they owned them in their personal name. So there was loads of these portfolios coming up, and there wasn't really many people that were in a position to buy a 20, 30, 40 unit portfolio. Because one, can you get the finance, and two, have you got the money to put the deposits down, and three, even if you do you know how to manage it out the other end? So we just figured it out. We just went through a baptism of fire, not only figuring out how we get the deals done, but also figuring out what we do with it
and afterwards. How to make money out of it.
Exactly. And the first big deal we did was 82 properties in Lanarkshire. The two guys that had owned it had done our business, and they'd just been ploughing a bit of money into property, but they built up this portfolio. They were collecting the rent every month cash. So on 82 units, it wasn't compliant. They hadn't done any of that stuff. It was a bit of a mess, and we ended up getting this product from Redwood where they were financing us 90% of the purchase price, so we didn't have to put down that much money. We agreed a 20% discount with them. and obviously you're not having to pay all your other taxes in that situation. So the deal on paper was good, but we still had to plough in like 60k of money to get this compliant before the banks would lend. So just a huge punt, massive risk.
Big risk comes big reward.
Big reward. And
that's entrepreneurial mindset, isn't it? It's when you're just like, let's do this.
You're focused on achieving a goal, and for us it was like, okay, we done 40 in the first year. It's like our target, and this is just about the way you think. It's like, well, what if we made the target for next year 300 to get to 300? What would we have to do differently? We'd have to buy portfolios. How the fuck do you do that? And then we just figured it out. And after we'd done our first portfolio, which was like, we had 40 properties and we bought a portfolio of 82, so we like just massively moved forward. Then we repeated the process a few times over. But we're now at a point where, because we concluded on our sort of biggest deal last year, which was 100 properties in Aberdeen, really high value stuff. Like it was like
everything the worth about high value.
Well, the values are the question, but like 12 mil value on this portfolio, and we bought it for 7. So huge discount. Yep. But it took us a year and a half to get that deal done.
Wow.
And then most people would think, day you've concluded, you're celebrating, big deal. We've been in property long enough to know it's very much a case of let's see. We've got the deal done. But let's see how it goes. We've got a refinance to do. We've got rents to get up. There's a lot. Now the work begins.
The real work starts.
Exactly. And the first big portfolio deal we did, it was big celebrations. Hallelujah, let's go. But now we're just long enough in the tooth to realise, there's a lot of work still to be done.
I love what you're saying there, and I suppose it's in any part of life. There's a blueprint. Right, that you can build, whether it's a success blueprint in your brain or a blueprint for buying portfolios. It's almost like once you learn this is what needs to happen, these are the problems that could potentially face, and making sure that you're up for it and you're ready, and and a lot of times, we talked about this earlier on, a lot of times they actually never happen.
Yep.
But when they do, you're ready, you're prepared, you've got a blueprint, you know how you're going to act, you know how you're going to react. Is that a fair?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we do get ahead of quite a lot. I mean, you don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about problems that might happen that you can't control. We're very much focused on, right, okay, here's the things we can do. Here's how we can get ahead of the risks that we might have with this portfolio. Aberdeen, the biggest risk is the variability in valuations, because you've got a few surveyors up there that will hammer down the value of every property they go into, whereas there's a few guys now that are starting to be a bit more optimistic about the market up there. So there's a level of control we can have on that situation. Obviously, management of the portfolio is a huge thing, and we were fortunate enough to take that portfolio over, and it was a really good letting agent in place. So normally we change it over and have it all with one agent, but we didn't, because they know it. They know inside out, they know all the stock. They've done a fantastic job, really high occupancy on it, and we need that, because these are high value assets. The cash flow is not as great as the 82 properties in Lanarkshire we bought at an average price of about 40 grand. So it's a learning experience. We've also made a lot of changes in our portfolio, because we're over 300 now, and it probably looks like, first 2 years we got to 200 properties. Fast forward in our 3 years, we're only at 300. What happened? It's like, well, no, actually we sold a lot of the cheaper stock off, because we now want some higher value stock. And it's just about, I think at the start we were like, always just focused on growing. Which we want to get to 1,000 as quickly as possible.
I totally get that, because it's like going back to the whole, when you build the blueprint, when you understand what it is to be an entrepreneur and how to think like an entrepreneur, you're always pushing. You're always pushing, isn't it?
100%. And we just took a bit of a step back over that after interest rates started going up. We took a bit of a step back, looked at some of the assets we'd like to sell. We obviously had this big Aberdeen deal, so it was like trying to get the average value of our property up. We invested a lot in Aberdeen because I just see the opportunity of the prices moving significantly over time as it diversifies from the oil and gas reliance and all that sort of stuff. So that was a big kind of turning point for us in our portfolio. And now, to be honest, we've got pretty good systems in place with the buy-to-let portfolio, unless it's to do with the finance or to do with acquisition of new assets. We don't really take any involvement. There's a team. We've got a team in the office, and we've got letting agents kind of up and down the country that deal with it. Our focus day to day now is Real Property Scotland, which is our kind of main trading business, where we have a brand, We Buy Home Scotland, which is a home buyer. That brings all the below market value opportunities. We spend a fortune on marketing. But we
need to, though, don't you? We'll go back to marketing in a minute.
And we're feeding ourselves and our growth through the below market value opportunities, and we've got a whole bunch of clients we work with where we trade them below market value deals, and we also teach them how to do property investment properly. You talk about a lot of the kind of stuff on social media and all these guys trying to be property trainers and stuff. The fundamental issue with all of that stuff is most people learn and doing. That goes back to my original point about my first day on the job. After having done all that studying at university, and they asked me to do a set of accounts on practical, and I'm like, how the fuck do I do this? The learning is in the doing. So there's a whole educational part to teach people how property investment should be done professionally.
Would you say the numbers are the key part here with property investment? Is you really need to understand your numbers. So if it's refurb costs or whatever it is, it's the numbers that probably matter more, because that's the difference between a good deal and a bad deal.
Yeah. I mean, we do a lot of that for our clients, albeit we do teach them how to understand the numbers. But anytime the guys are dealing with a deal opportunity that comes through, there's this kind of slick due diligence process we've got, because We Buy Home Scotland is all about speed. People are giving you a 30% discount on their property because they want it done quickly. So we need to be able to analyse a deal very quickly and say yeah or nay, and we use systems like Home Track, which is like an online valuation software. That's the same software the banks use. So if they're looking at the valuation of your property, it's the same thing we're looking at. So there's a lot we do on that. A lot of clients need to understand how the finance works, both whether you're using bridging on acquisition or exit finance. And the lending market has got significantly better in the last few years. When we talked about, Section 24 coming in 2017, everybody moved to limited companies. Well, that was fine, but there wasn't much lending available. Now that's totally changed. There's loads of companies out there that are lending to limited companies. The lending's getting better. They're reintroducing 80% loan to value. The rates are coming down. You've got day one refinances again that weren't there for a long time. So, educating them on how you're buying it, how you're exiting it, everything that happens in the middle. We do a lot of tax efficiency, tax avoidance stuff as well, because, at the end of the day, who wants to make a bunch of money and pay all the tax, man?
How much does that drive you cuckoo? That's another podcast.
Well, on the investment side of the business, we're really good at that. We don't pay hardly any tax on it because we're continuing to grow it, and as long as you're investing in growth,
absolutely,
you don't have to pay much.
Absolutely.
The trading side of it's a different ballgame entirely, because there's only so much you can do with that. The VAT bills are horrendous. The court taxes, and
I feel like crying every time my VAT bills comes up. I'm like, oh. My wife's really clever though with money, because so it's literally the minute the money comes in,
she puts the VAT. Yep.
Marketing, profit. She's got pots. She's got 5 pots.
That takes her further than us. We always. And
she's really good at it.
Yeah.
Like really good.
That's organised.
Yeah. It's like, for example, I says to her, we're going to do a TV ad. August, September time. So I'd say to them in January, we're going to do a TV ad, and they're goddamn expensive. They make it, they're no, but they're you're 20, 30 really grand, and she started to, so she listened to my conversation. She started opening an account, TV ad account, and she would take her percentage of the marketing budget every month. Now she's got the TV ad money sitting there.
It's ready to go.
She's brilliant. It's great. That's an asset.
that is a very good finance manager you've got with you. It's great to be kind of organised in that front, because nobody wants a big VAT bill and realise you've not provided for it.
Absolutely.
So the trading business is very much a different ballgame. We're very active with the clients that we work with, I mean, we don't work with hundreds of clients. We've got around about 80 at the moment, but we're helping them actively build their business by, giving them the advice and mentorship they need, and also the deals they need to move their business forward. And that's really cool, because we're getting to see other people changing their lives as well as what we've done for ourselves. So that probably takes up the majority of our time now, and we've tried to be really laser focused on building that business and moving it forward. Part of that business also has town and country property auctions, so deals that aren't deals for us or our clients, we go into the auction. So that is, we've diverted our attention quite a few times, and again, that's another big risk for entrepreneurs starting out. There's so many shiny pennies, and I think Alex Hormozy talks about, everybody starts their entrepreneur journey from uninformed optimism. So you really can't wait to get started, but you have no fucking idea what's coming at you.
And how hard it's going to be, how much money you're going to invest.
Just a baptism of fire coming at you. And then you get to...
My first 3 years, we ran at a loss.
Yeah.
A loss, 3 years.
That's
and I came from oil and gas with all this money. 3 years later, I'm like, I've nearly done all my money here.
Yeah. Well, Bezos ran at a loss for 20 years and it worked out pretty well for him. So then you go through to this phase of informed pessimism, and it's at that phase that most entrepreneurs go into the next shiny penny, because they don't see it through.
Yeah.
But if you get through to the next level, which is, back to informed optimism, that's when you can really push your business forward.
Absolutely.
But what he doesn't tell you is you go through that cycle every time you try to grow the fucking company.
Absolutely. You go through it.
So it's like, okay, we're at 3 mil revenue. How do we take it to 5?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have to go through hell.
Yeah.
Because everything
and you might need to bring in different people as well. Because that's where we are right now. So we're looking at how do we hit that 3, 5, 10. Yeah. I need to bring in people in, because I'm not the man to do it. I need to bring in people that have got better skills than me.
And that's exactly where we are as well just now. We moved from Grangemouth, where our office was based, into Glasgow city centre. We in that process lost a lot of staff because they were local based, and we kept all our key staff. But we've had to hire a whole bunch of new admin staff. We're growing the team anyway because we're trying to grow the business. So I think we've got about 6 new employees that have started over the last month since we moved. We've put in a new CRM system because the old one was rubbish. We're going through.
CRMs are game changing if you get it right. Absolutely,
it's so hard to get it right though. I know, because they're all, unless you get one.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Designing the one that we've got now.
You got one custom made.
We got one. So it's actually the company's Zoho, but we get a Zoho designer, developer, who's been working with us literally constantly for nearly 2 years. Yeah.
We brought in a new marketing manager as well. So this was another part of the leveling up. We had the social media team who were doing a bit of the marketing, but they weren't specialists. So we brought in a guy, Lee Morrison, who's our marketing manager now, and he's got a huge amount of experience, knows kind of Google inside out, Facebook inside out. We've massively ramped up our marketing since then. But he's also really tech savvy, so we're doing a lot of AI implementation just now.
We are as well, we are.
I mean, you have to go that way.
I've hired my first IT person.
Oh wow.
Just graduated. In fact, he graduated last week. His official graduation. He's a back and front end developer for Strathclyde Uni. So he's now a full-time employee. And guess what his remit is? AI the shit out of my business.
Yeah. Look at every aspect of what you're doing and how it could be done better with AI.
Absolutely.
Because that's the future.
Absolutely.
I always say, for kids just now as well, not really understanding what life looks like when they come out of school or further education. It's like, well, school's still teaching you the same old shit they were 50 years
Absolutely.
ago. That's not going to get you anywhere.
And it fundamentally needs to change, but it's again another whole podcast.
Well, it won't though.
No, it won't.
And they'll make small tweaks to it, but it can't move at the speed that it needs to.
I know.
I mean, it can't move at the speed that it needs to for normal circumstances, but AI is not a normal circumstance. It's an extrapolation that's going to happen so quickly.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing.
Week to week, it's mind-blowing.
I know.
When you see what it can do this week that it couldn't do last week, it's insane. So, like, the future of accountant, doctor, lawyer, going to university. It doesn't exist.
Aye.
My kids are pretty young, so it definitely doesn't exist for
ChatGPT is
them.
my CFO now.
Yeah.
I can put load all my details. I pay for the big version of it.
Yeah.
I can put everything in it and say I want a detailed. Alright, I've got an accountant, but see if I want let's say I'm looking for investment, or if you were going to, ChatGPT can run the whole thing.
Well, I was going to say to you earlier that time back in Baker Hughes when they asked you for the plan. If only you'd had ChatGPT, then you'd have been sorted.
Oh no! Oh my God, I'd have been absolutely perfect. Yeah. But anyway, listen, we're getting close to the end of the podcast. I ask all my guests this, so I'm going to be a bit more specific. So it's normally the top 3 things, piece of advice you would give someone, but I'm thinking somebody new looking to get into property development, because there is no silver bullet, right? Even though that social media will tell you there's all these silver bullets, get rich quick, 180 days, blah blah blah, which I believe doesn't exist. It's hard work. What's your top 3 piece of advice?
Yeah, the first thing is, the mindset element of it. So you need to understand that a lot of people think they can just do a bit of property investment, and it's not a real business, it's not real entrepreneurship. So if you've got a terrible mindset and you can't deal with the stress and the problems and all that, you can still do a bit of property. You can't. It's a business like any other. You're going to have to deal with down vals, you're going to have to deal with financing issues, you're going to have to deal with issues with the property, issues with tenants, all that sort of stuff. A lot of the issues that entrepreneurs have, and even if you're building a relatively small portfolio, it's still a level of entrepreneurship there. So you need to get your head right.
And it's volatile.
Yeah.
It can be really volatile, can't it? Like any business, whole, particularly on your side with interest rates. I mean, that could be an absolute game changer for a lot of companies. Yeah. So next piece of advice, what's it?
The next piece of advice is you do need to get the education. You need to be careful about where you get it and how you get it and all that. But the education is essential because it is now more complicated to be a landlord and be in property investment than it's ever been. There's way more regulation. The Scottish government particularly has been hounding landlords since 2015 in a very aggressive way. So the tax is very complicated. You need to make sure that you structure your company in the right way. Buy-to-let investment isn't protected for inheritance tax, so there's a whole load of long-term planning. If you want to pass it over to kids, you need to think about all of that. Financing as well, you can really make a mess of that if you don't know what you're doing. So there is a way to build a very profitable property investment business, but you need to start from a position of knowledge. The amount of people we see that come to us that have bought properties in their own name and they've ended up in a mess with tax, and it's really difficult to unwind that and move. A lot of people think they can just throw them into a company, or I'll get it up to 6 and then I'll throw them into a company. Well, it's not that easy. Okay, you might avoid the ADS if you do that, but then you've got capital gains tax to think about, you've got the legal costs to think about, you've got the finance costs, so you've got early termination costs on, more often than not when we do that exercise, it doesn't make financial sense. You end up just having to sell all the properties and then start again. So it's it's one of those where you can make a really bad move. And the third thing I'd say is figure out what you're trying to achieve with it. Because the strategies that we develop for clients will vary significantly based on their personal circumstances, what they're trying to achieve, what the goals. The most common goal we see for people, and this is a situation that is only going to get worse in the world, is, if you go back to the 1980s, the average property price was about 15 grand and the average salary was like 3-4k, something like that. So it was like a 3-4 times multiplier of salary. Yeah. Fast forward to now, your average salary is 30 odd grand and your average property price is 280 or whatever. So you're talking 8-9 times multiplier. So you're now in a position where really to afford a house, both parents need to be out working. And then it makes it a nightmare for childcare. They're having to pull in the parents a lot more. They're having to pay for all this extra childcare. And, life at home is not great for the average, family. And that is only going to get worse. So a lot of our clients come to us with the initial objective of like, I want to take my partner out of work. And if that's the objective, the strategy for that is usually fairly clear. But equally, someone might just be looking to make, you know, maybe, you know, we've got a few other clients they've made a lot of money in a short period of time, and they're just looking to create cash flow. Like if someone sold their business, they get a big lump of cash, but they're not getting any income anymore. So they're looking to create cash flow. There's some people that don't want to hold assets; they just want to flip. So you need to figure out what it is that you're trying to achieve with this, and it's the same in any business. It's like what is the goal? What is the purpose? Otherwise, you're just going to kind of aimlessly wander through. Not have, you know, one thing we're doing right now, because we've got all this new staff and we'll just move, we're setting our company values. It's like these are the things that
non-negotiables.
Non-negotiables.
I built my business around values, by the way.
It's so important. So it's no different for your investment. You know, whether it's property or whether you're investing in anything else. What are your values that you are basing your decisions on? Because if you don't have something to ground yourself in, some focus, purpose, values, then you're not going to make good decisions. It's clear. Right,
I've got a final question for you. This is a personal question. So I've been trying to talk my daughter in, right? My daughter's 21. She works for our company. She's in marketing. She's got about 14 or 15 grand saved. And I'm trying to get her to get into a buy-to-let, buy a property, let it out. It's only going to increase in value. What's your advice on that?
Buy it below market value. You know, like learn how to, if you don't have access to below market value deals, learn how to do it, because there's, you know, you don't want to end up, nobody wants to be in a position where you're in negative equity starting out. And if you're anywhere near buying a property at 100% and you've got 8% ADS and all the legal fees and stuff, you're in negative equity day one. So you've got 4 or 5 years of capital appreciation ahead of yourself just to get that money back. You need to buy below market value, or it just doesn't make sense. The challenge with just buying one right now is really, unless you're going to buy it in your personal name, which you can, if you're a lower income earner, you can get away with having one or two properties in your own name. But to buy it in a company, you know, maybe the net cash flow in that property is going to be 300 quid a month. Your accounting fees annually are going to be 300. So it doesn't make a lot of sense just to buy one in a company, but you could buy it in a personal name, albeit there might be a time further down the line where that doesn't make sense anymore if she's a higher earner and stuff like that. But it's great to get that experience. You know, a lot of the lenders now are saying, if you're trying to get some of these more aggressive products from the finance companies, like there are companies out there doing 100% bridging, as long as you've got a good discount on the property. They want to see how long you've been a landlord, how long you've been in property. If you start that journey early, then you know you're going to have a lot more options as you go forward and try and grow and build that business. And it just creates a really good habit of investing cash. You know, so
amazing. Olivia, listen. I've been trying to talk her into it for about a year now. Listen, Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure. Oh, by the way, we're both wearing cleans, innit? Cleans,
There we go.
Great trainers, man. I've got the pure white ones of them as well. I just noticed them. I'm like, I know they're the cleans.
I need to go a size bigger next time because they're a bit tight at the front.
Are they on? See, I'm normally an 8, and I've got to buy a 7.5.
All right, it's different, a slightly different style.
I must be. I've got I think 3 or 4 different pairs. I love them.
No,
anyways,
I like them.
that was an off the cuff one. a wee shout out for cleans here. By the way, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Very similar backgrounds, and it's incredible to see your journey so far. And thank you for coming along. Before we close off, now all the details will be in the podcast, whether it's Facebook, YouTube or whatever. How do people get a hold of you? If they're interested, they think, you know what, I'm going to go speak to this guy, I'm actually interested in starting my first portfolio. How do they get in contact with you?
We're on social media, Real Property Scotland. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, usual stuff.
Yeah, perfect. And that's how they'll get a hold of you. Simple. Listen, thank you so much, Alex. It's been absolutely fantastic.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, James.
Pleasure.